Have you been seeing somebody for a little while now and are starting to wonder, is this relationship going to go anywhere? Or why hasn't it already gone somewhere or progressed? Well, in today's video, we are going to talk about maybe why that could be, and specifically, six major signs that you might actually be in a situationship. And then we'll go into how a securely attached person would handle if they were in a situationship so that you can use that as a roadmap to understand what you can do and how to progress in your love life. So, if you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Thais. I put daily videos out here on YouTube after basically running a client based practice for about 10 years and now running the personal development school and all of our online courses and programs for the last 5 years or so. So, first and foremost, what is a situationship? And if you're not familiar with this term, although I'm sure you are, a situationship is basically a romantic or sexual relationship that exists without any kind of real formal commitment. So there's not a clear definition, and it often falls somewhere in a sense between a casual hookup all the way to a committed serious partnership, but it's not on either end. It's really in that gray zone in the middle. And after working with people for a very long time at this point, one of the things that has become very clear to me is that the gray area is a very painful place for people to be if they are actually developing feelings for somebody. It's almost as if for a lot of individuals, as long as they know what the relationship it is and where it's going, if they have some sort of certainty around it, they can even handle that better, even if it's not so great news. But what's the most painful is not knowing and not knowing how to talk about it. So, some signs that you may actually be in a situationship are number one, a lack of definition or labels around defining the relationship as a whole. So, obviously, there's no term like boyfriend or girlfriend or partner, and it just leaves a lot of ambiguity. And that causes, because of that ambiguity, for somebody to just feel like they don't know what's happening and where this is going. Number two, this is usually after a period of time where it's not just something casual. So obviously, you're not going to feel like, oh, am I in a situationship after you've been on two dates with somebody or one date with somebody? It's actually going to be when you've spent a good amount of time and those feelings are starting to get pretty real. And yet you find yourself just not really knowing what's happening. And probably personally, if you're watching this, you want to progress the relationship in some form, or you want certainty in some capacity, but you just don't know how to go about obtaining that. Then it brings me to number three, which is that you'll see there's a casual nature of things. There's a lot of discussion, at least from one end of the party or partnership, where somebody's saying, oh, yeah, this is more casual. I'm just, enjoying the moment. And even sort of putting off real discussions. Now, interestingly enough, often this happens in a two-way form. Often people who are stuck in extended situationships are actually also avoiding that discussion, but for different reasons. So usually you'll have somebody who's a little bit more commitment phobic or commitment fearing, and they will put off progressing the relationship or having a more serious conversation about it because maybe they're not sure if they want a commitment, or they're not sure if they're capable of a solid commitment at some point in their life, like at that very specific point in time. Or they may find that they're a little bit concerned about what commitment could mean. But interestingly enough, this may surprise people, this often is a two-way street. The other partner, even if you're feeling anxious, you're probably also avoiding any kind of discussion, not because you're fearing the commitment, but because you're fearing the abandonment, the rejection, the not seeming like a cool person or good enough partner who's just going to go with the flow. And that makes me want to question you, if you are on that end of the situation listening, you know, at what expense do you betray yourself, right? Like, at how far are you willing to go to sort of retain the label of being the cool partner or the go with the flow partner? At what point is that inauthentic to you? And at what point is actually that's actually a form of self-betrayal? So I'm curious to see what comes up for you there. Now we have a couple other common themes here. So you'll see that there is a lack of defined boundaries. Okay. So Undefined boundaries, again, another symptom of situationships. And you'll generally see that there's just a lack of like talking about future plans, lack of talking about, are we going to travel together? Are we going to see each other next weekend? It can actually be that intense where there isn't even planning in advance out from like weekend to weekend. I'm not even talking about, yeah, family vacation in 3 months or let's plan a trip for next summer. That'll be fun. I mean, like weekend to weekend, there could be that degree of undefined boundaries. And again, my question for you, if you're on the receiving end of this, is how does that make you feel? Right? Like, how is that making you feel if you are on the receiving end of constantly undefined boundaries and all of this like confusion and inconsistency? Anyways, last major sign that you're in a situationship are communication gaps and almost too much flexibility. So there just seems to be this lack of communication, and that can cause misunderstandings. Generally, one person feels a lot of unmet expectations in this kind of dynamic. And situationships can work for some people. Okay. If two people are fresh out of a breakup and they get together and they're in this kind of dilemma or dynamic, for some people, it can serve for a purpose in time. But, the big difference between somebody being in a situationship or just a casual relationship is that it's defined. Both parties in a healthy casual relationship are usually on the same page and openly talking about it. Whereas in a situationship, usually it's one person trying to maintain a more casual relationship, the other person wanting something different or having expectations of something different. And that's actually what causes the torment or the frustration or the anxiety in this particular case. So let's move on to the next part here where we talk about, well, how would a securely attached person respond to being in a situationship? So we have a few crucial things here. Okay. A secure person generally does five things much differently. Okay. Number one, they are going to openly discuss their feelings, their needs, and their expectations. Not just from a place of feeling comfortable being vulnerable about it, but also from a place of truly being curious and seeking to understand the other person's perspective as well. And the reason why they do this, the reason why this is really important to them is they don't want they're vetting people, right? They're actually looking to see, is this person a good fit for me too? It's not about them just people pleasing their way into somebody else's life. It's about them looking for people who are also available for what they are looking for. And they're trying to be the judge of character on that. They're trying to actually go and figure out, is this person on the same page as me? Because I don't want to continuously invest in somebody who's not going to be willing to move the needle. So they're trying to get that information out, and they're willing to have tough discussions enough that that information can come to the surface. Okay. So that really brings me to point number two, which is vetting. They'll ask the appropriate questions, have the hard conversations, because they're trying to see not just, am I a good fit for your life, but they are equally trying to see, are you also a good fit for what I'm looking for? Are you looking for the same things? And if not, maybe you're not a good fit for me. Okay. And before I go into the next three things here that securely attached people do differently that I'm hoping you can take away from this, if you fear these conversations, if you're afraid to have these conversations and you feel like all this anxiety and panic, chances are that you probably have a pretty strong degree of codependency. And codependency leads us to become really interested in people pleasing over sharing our truth. And even though sharing our truth can be so important to us when we're codependent, it's almost like the fear of abandonment just takes precedence. The fear of being alone or being rejected or disappointing somebody, those things are so strong that it can cause you to go into self betrayal and lose your boundaries. And all of these things are very solvable problems. And we actually have a course called Reprogramming Codependency. It's actually how to rewire your subconscious mind to not constantly be in fear of somebody leaving you. And you can check out fully for free. Now, I'm still going to share three other points here with you in this video, but you can check it out fully for free for a limited time. And I'll put the link to that down below. All about healing codependency, even enmeshment is in there. We talk about how to stop getting enmeshed with people and learning to have healthy boundaries. So, the next three things securely attached people do differently is they have healthy boundaries, literally bridging off of what we just talked about. They establish clear boundaries early on in regards to what they are comfortable and uncomfortable with. So they're willing to fend for their boundaries, support their boundaries, basically back their own boundaries because they're like, hold on a second here. I know that if I cross this boundary, it's going to do me more harm than good. And so they're ready to keep those boundaries strong, and that makes them, in a position where they're less likely to get hurt really badly by other people because they're not abandoning themselves in the process of trying to get to know someone else. The next thing you'll see here is that there tends to be a lot of self-respect, point number 4 here of 5, and self-care. So they are going to equally prioritize their own well-being. They're not going to, change themselves like a chameleon to be what they think somebody needs from them. They're not going to manipulate themselves to be what somebody else expects. And honestly, I can't stress enough, and I feel like it's this sort of background theme that I'm sharing throughout this video. It's not good for anybody to be in a situation where they change themselves constantly for the sake of trying to win approval of others. You'll always end up in self abandonment. You'll lose your own approval at a subconscious level. And you'll feel it, and it's gonna come out in your self-esteem, your self-confidence, your feelings of worth, all of those different things long term. And last but not least, probably the most important part, securely attached people will absolutely have hard discussions and advocate for moving the relationship along. So they'll generally say something like this. Like if they're if so keep in mind, they're not going to do this 2 dates in, right? They're going to be doing this, let's say 2 months in, 3 months in, where they're starting to realize, there's some real feelings here. There's been a lot of connection, time seeing each other, maybe even 4 months in, depending on how quickly things are moving, how close you live, how often you're seeing each other. But somewhere between 2 to 4 months, a securely attached person will say, "Hey, I'm developing real feelings here. I'm interested in seeing where this goes further. I also want to be mindful of my own time and respectful of my own time and not invest continuously if that's not a place that you see us progressing to. You don't see this becoming something more serious over time. And I need to know, are we on the same page? Are we both moving in the same direction?" And they will take that information. And if somebody says yes, cool, they'll grow with that person in a relationship. If somebody says no, I'm really not, in any sort of mindset to have any kind of relationship right now, and that's not going to change for the foreseeable future, they will hear that, they will listen to it, and they will leave that relationship dynamic if they're wanting something different. And in doing that, they won't be afraid to really honor themselves and their truth. If you're interested in helping make a huge impact on other people's lives while also building financial freedom, I'm offering an early bird 50% discount on our integrated attachment theory relationship certification program that will help you become a certified integrated attachment theory relationship coach and build your own thriving practice by the end of 12 weeks. This 12-week on-demand program will help you kickstart your new career by teaching you revolutionary tools and strategies that help clients transform their lives and relationships. Build your own coaching practice and set yourself up for a waitlist of clients and financial success. Even if you have no coaching experience, this program will give you very in-depth tools, resources, and confidence to get started in a matter of weeks. And you can learn more information by clicking the link down below. So, I hope this gives you so much context in regards to how secure people handle situationships, what you can do, your key takeaways, and those signs. Check how many signs you had that you may be in a situationship as well. Let me know in the comments down below how many of those 6 first signs you had. And thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. And I can't wait to see you in the next video.